So I'm curious, what is your favorite song that you've ever made?
That I've ever made. Oh, wow. It's one called Error of Days. I was in a band at the time called Ezra Thomas. It was kind of like a made-up name with my first name in there. It's my favorite song. I think it's the most beautiful song I've ever written, and it's kind of got a neat story behind it.
So, just quickly out of curiosity, would it be, hold on.
You're good.
Would it be this one?
That's it?
This is it?
Yes.
Will we get copyright striked if we play it?
I really don't think so. I try not to do that because I like people to be able to use my music. So I don't do the whole digital ID thing.
I love the cover art for that. Did you do that?
Yeah.
That's my wife. Yes.
Oh, is it?
It is my wife.
That's really
She's
cool.
the model in that. And I did that, yes. I still kind of am a graphic designer from time to time. So
Oh, yeah?
That's,
So what was the idea behind the cover art? Like, what was the inspiration for it?
wow, man. So that was in a hard time. This whole album, it was called Promised Land, this album and it was kind of like she's got the butterfly wings, and it's a kind of like a change in life, the caterpillar to the butterfly kind of thing. But as you see, like the picture kind of tells it all, she's coming out of a fire. And my life fell apart probably in my late 20s, just from I guess you could say the rock and roll life finally got to me. And so this was really kind of my life collapsing and being reborn, you might even say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the whole idea behind the cover art.
That's very moving. I like that. So, if you haven't caught on by now, we are going to be interviewing the one, the only Ezra Vancil.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be asking him all sorts of wacky questions as well as heartwarming, serious questions. All of that and more on today's episode of the Coffee Talk Podcast. Before we get into the episode, we have a few disclaimers that we have to, let you know about. A big shout out goes to our sponsor of this episode, Soulshine Brew and Bakery. So thank you so much to you for sponsoring another episode of the podcast.
And as always, make sure you follow us on all of the socials. We have Instagram, TikTok. We have a Reddit page if you're interested in that sort of thing. We're just about everywhere on Spotify, YouTube, all the good stuff.
And if you don't feel like looking it up, it's in the description below. Also, if at any point in the video you are feeling like you're bored of what we're talking about, guess what? We have timestamps below, so you can just skip to the next portion of the video where we're going to be talking about more fun stuff, hopefully. So do not fret. You don't have to click off the video. And I think that's it. Enjoy the video. Before we get into the main meat of this video, the main structure of it, we have to do our coffee of the day. And today, because y'all are always saying that tea is better, which
Yes.
I completely disagree with you on that, but y'all always say that tea is better than coffee. I decided to make everybody here teas. Most of the people behind the camera are drinking teas, and you got a coffee. You just got a plain coffee.
I didn't hear the news that tea was better.
Yeah, it was kind of a unanimous decision.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think? Do you think tea or coffee is better?
Oh, I love coffee. I drink way too much coffee. But I like tea, too. Like chamomile tea.
Oh, yeah. That was a really good one.
Peppermint tea, man, I can jam on that. Like, especially on a cool, cold day or something. I love it.
I think tea is good. Recently, I've been craving this peach tea, which is what I have today.
That's good.
I think you said that I have like a dreamsicle tea.
Yes. So you said in the last episode, Dreamsicle was your favorite snow cone flavor, so I
Yeah.
decided to make it into a tea.
Okay, that's actually really good. Yeah, an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then I have, like I said, peach tea.
What is a dreamsicle? Is that a plant of some sort?
Well, it's a snow cone flavor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the last episode we were ranking every snow cone flavor,
Oh.
and that one's much just my favorite.
Peach tea is a 9 out of 10. I love it so much.
Mine would be bubblegum because that was my favorite snow cone. So I
Yeah.
would have bubblegum tea right now. I guess.
Bubblegum tea?
Yeah.
What would you rank your coffee?
It's not bad. I like it. I like the new stuff, the fancy gourmet coffee, but there's just something about just a coffee. No glamour or anything. It's
Yeah.
just a coffee.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. I like it.
We got all of the drinks at Soulshine Brew and Bakery. I'm going to start with another starter question. I know we did a warm-up before this, but this is the official starter question. If you were an animal,
This is my question.
I know I stole it from you. If you were an animal,
What animal would you be?
Oh wow. Man, it's surprisingly hard because I've never thought about it. I kind of, identify with the squirrel. There's differences in the East Texas squirrel, and I'm from the DFW area, and the Dallas squirrel. More like a Dallas squirrel because they're a little more well fed, not as afraid. Like
Yeah.
they'll come up to you, but they will, run off. The East Texas squirrels are scared to death. I think somebody's eating them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just run off. But I guess a squirrel. I get very distracted, and I'm just always kind of just running around doing things, and I'm not sure always why. But so there you go.
It's a good answer. It's a new one. Haven't
That is
heard
a
that
new
one before.
Yeah, new answer unlocked.
I guess you should probably just formally introduce yourself to everybody, what you do, who you are.
So I'm Ezra Vancil, and I'm a musician, and I've been playing around Texas and kind of this southern states for a very long time. I don't even want to say how long. And I play Americana music. Some call it folk rock, acoustic rock. I like Americana. And I also play in a band with my daughter, and that band is called Cozy and a Flounder. She named it when she was 11, so we've kept the name.
It's a very good name.
So
it's very interesting.
That's what I am. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about where you grew up. What was that like?
I grew up, I was probably like a vagabond kind of thing. My parents, the closest comparison I've had is like military kids, because my parents were gospel singers. And so we just toured around. We moved so much that I don't even know all the towns we lived in. One school year would be 3 different schools.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds like a bad thing. I loved it. I got to get on stage and would perform some songs at concerts, and we were just all over the place. So that was my young life. And it sounds like, oh, that's terrible, but it's actually I love adventure, and it was an adventurous young life. But what's cool is, so my parents were songwriters and performed music. So when I was ready at I think I was 14 to start writing songs, my dad showed me how to write songs. And by the time I was 16, I was in a band, and by 17, I was really in a band, and we were touring, and that's all I was doing.
Wow.
So you started really young.
I started really young, yeah.
Do you think that gave you any inspiration for what you write about these days?
Oh, yeah, definitely. My music and my songs are kind of like my biography. Like some people write a book, for people to remember them by. My songs are my biography, so I constantly call back to those times in my life, even to my childhood and to my teenage band, and they become like stories in my songs.
When is the earliest that you started writing music, and what is the earliest song that you wrote that is still available?
Oh, that's still available. So the earliest song that I wrote that's available, like you can find it, is called, I don't even want to say it though, because it's from my teenage band and people might go find it. It's from a band called Gypsy Tree, and we styled ourselves acoustic funk. And so it's really a funky acoustic music.
That's different.
And so called Gypsy Tree. The first songs that are available that I wrote are on that album. Probably the very first song that's on there is called Love Don't Grow. But I wrote many years before one actually got recorded.
Well, what is the first song that you can remember yourself writing?
I don't remember the song exactly, but it was the very first song I wrote was for a girl that I met, and I wanted to convince her that I was very interesting. And I thought, if I could write a song for her with her name in it, she would think I was so interesting. And I was probably 13 or 14. And so I went and asked my dad. I didn't know how to play guitar or anything. And I said, Dad, I want to write a song. And he said, cool, it's easy. You just need 3 chords. And he gave me C, D, and A minor, I think. And he says, you can write 100 songs with that. So go off and go write. And so I wrote her this song, and sure enough, she thought I was interesting. She was blown away to have a song just written for her. And so she was my girlfriend for 3 days, and then she broke up with me. But anyways, that's the first song I ever wrote.
Well, you said your dad kind of gave you the chords. Was he the one that taught you how to play the guitar?
So that was the first time I ever learned. So he gave me the chords. He showed me a picking pattern and a way to strum. And that was my only lessons for a long time. And then, of course, I've watched him my whole life, so it's like it just was in my blood. As soon as I got those chords, I was just doing what he did, because guitar players have different rhythm patterns and picking patterns. So I just, for 4 years, all I did was what my dad did, which was whatever strum he did and whatever picking pattern he did. And then I kind of branched out as I got older.
Cool. So you kind of just mirrored him for the
For the
first
beginning,
years.
yeah. And it came real easy. I just watched them playing music my whole life. So
Well,
it
that's
came
always cool.
real quick to me.
Soulshine Brew and Bakery is a longtime sponsor of the Coffee Talk podcast. And I know it's Dunkin' Donuts thing to say America runs on Dunkin', but honestly, America runs on coffee. Think about it. Literally every morning when you wake up, you say, don't talk to me unless I've had my morning coffee. All better. There's actually nothing in this coffee. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is Soulshine makes amazing coffees and they never disappoint. You can have any flavor ranging from mocha, caramel, white chocolate, green apple and peach mango coffee, frappuccino, I don't know. They can literally make any kind of flavor, and not just with coffee either. They also do snow cones as well as lemonades and teas, and you can mix any flavor that they have up there with those drinks. And personally for me, anytime I go up there, I like to choose a different item off of their menu because they literally have an infinite amount of different drinks you can get. Just the other day, I got a birthday cake lemonade, and it's one of my new favorite drinks of all time. But aside from the drinks, they also do all sorts of baked goods. They have cookies, cakes, cupcakes, and those delicious desserts are great for birthday parties or local events, really anything. All you have to do is call them and ask at 903-922-4162. Or if you just want to stop by and say hello, maybe get a coffee or a tea or maybe place an order for some baked goods, you can go to their little shop located at 120 East Chestnut Street, Grapeland, Texas. Again, if you have any questions, you can call them, you can go up to their shop, you can email them. Their email is going to be in the description of the video. Everything that I mentioned is usually in the description. Or you can just say hello on their Facebook page. Send them a little personalized message. Anyways, thank you Soulshine for sponsoring this episode, just like most of the other ones. And we are back to your regular programming. Also, any other companies wanting to sponsor an episode, you can email us. Our email is also in the description. Out of curiosity, what is your favorite note?
Wow, man. The questions. My favorite note is C sharp. Actually, the chord C sharp. Well, it's a C. It's one up from a C, one step up from a C.
I can't say I'm very familiar with what is that like a high note or?
Okay.
I like it both high and low. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you know
both.
on the piano, do you know where C is? Do you know where the black keys are? You know, it's 3, 2, 3, 2. That first two, and that's C sharp.
That's C sharp.
Okay, I think I can picture that.
And ask me why, I don't know, but I just always think that's a beautiful chord. I don't even use it a whole lot, but I always thought it was real pretty.
It's just the best one.
Just, yeah. I've always like, how can I use that?
Well, on that same note. No, I was waiting for the laugh track.
That was
Oh,
bad.
I get it.
That was
Okay,
bad.
it took me a while. I'm a little slow in the uptake.
Who is your inspiration for music?
Well, it's kind of a one or the other, but I would have to say Bob Dylan.
Oh, he's a good one.
I got like obsessed with him. So my father had all these albums that we had. We had records when I was a kid. So he had the ones sitting out that we listened to. We could listen to any of those. And one day, when I was probably, I don't know, I was in 7th grade. I don't know how old I was. I went and found that he had this box hidden away of records. And so he was gone. So I got into his records and he had this dude named Bob Dylan in there. I was like, what is this dude? He looks cool. And I took it upstairs and I put it on my little record player and I was just obsessed with him. Like I listened to this record. I mean, it must have been 1,000 times in a month, just over and over. So he'd have to be the big one. Though I also had a love affair with like the Beatles for a little while, but not as much as that. And another guy from Canada, he recently passed away, called Gordon Lightfoot. Now that's one my dad liked a lot, but I also loved him a lot and still listen to him. He's just a songwriter. Well, I say he's a great songwriter from Canada.
Would you say that you pull kind of some inspiration from the people that you looked up to in music?
I think so. Probably the most common comment I get is that people don't know where to put me. And I don't know why that is, but I think because like when I was young, I made a decision that I didn't want to copy anybody. A lot of my friends were like learning music, but they were just like, I'm all about Zappa, or I'm all about Rush, you know, whatever band was happening. And they would just play stuff that sounded like that. And I was like, man, I want to create something that's just me. And so I'm not saying I did that, but I've always had that in my mind that I'm trying not to copy people.
Yeah.
And not that I don't. If somebody guesses Gordon Lightfoot or Bob Dylan, they've hit, because it just comes through your music. You can't help it. So I'm sure it has influenced me in all kinds of ways.
I don't know how to word this. What do you think is like the most, I guess, industry breaking notion that you've done as a song maker that has stayed relevant in your music? Does that make sense? I don't even know how to word it. Like something in your song that you think nobody else in the song industry or the music industry has done that you have done, that you've made, or like a style that you have made and you like have stuck with
Something unique. Wow. Yeah, that could get really pretentious. Let me see. Let me think here. You know, because we're all like musicians, we all want to be unique, but we only have so many notes to pick from and so many sounds. And so I don't know how unique it is, but I do know that in recent years, now, I've had a whole music catalog online from young to old, but in the last 10 years, I've really tried to write music about love, but not young love. Does that make sense? Because so much music I listen to all through my life is about infatuation or people falling in love. And not a lot of it is about like love over a lifetime. Now, somebody I do like, another Bob Dylan thing is because Bob Dylan seems to write in the era he's in his life. He's an old man now, and he like, some of his lyrics are like, the lights are so bright, they're giving me a headache. You know, I made up that lyric, but he's got some that sound like that. So he's singing about things right there relevant to his age. And so I feel like I've created some beautiful kind of songs about love, about family, that are not your normal kind of country, like, oh, my grandpa, blah, 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 but they're true kind of memories of that. I have a song called Goodbye Grandpas that I wrote, that it's probably one that I think is something I wouldn't say is unique. It's rare in today's day because we're all singing about certain things, but not a lot of people are singing about their grandpas, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted one that like made everybody think about their grandpa, you know?
Yeah. So it just kind of stands there on its own as its own sort of entity out there. Going back to earlier a little bit, what made you want to start writing music other than that one girlfriend?
I mean, really in my like fantasies as a child, I was writing music and singing. Like, you know, I can remember all the way like 5 or 6 years old and in my mind writing songs. You know, all I can really say, so it's always been kind of in me. What I could say, looking back on my life, why I wanted to write is just all the confusion when you're young and being somebody, like, especially when I was young, I'm a little better at talking to people now. Very, like, painfully shy, and I didn't know how to express myself. And so music plays a huge part in truly expressing my heart. It felt like there was no boundaries there. I could really say what I needed, and it was palatable to people. Now, where if I just said it to them, it, you know, make them all mad at me. But I could say it in a song in a way that people could understand.
So it has a bit more meaning and truth to it.
Yeah. You know, a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of artists are mimicking what they hear. But when you really try to use music as something to express, and I'm not saying I'm like great at this, I'm just saying it's something I aspire to. But when you try to use music to express yourself, something truer than all the words we could sit here and say all day could come out in a few notes, you know, and a few lyrics with those notes could be so true that it touches something in another human and it's powerful. And it's really, do you know what I mean? Though it's more than all the words I could write. Could just be in a few words and it says it. I don't need to say it because you feel it. You know, that's the beauty of songwriting to me.
I see what you mean. Like, I'll use rap as an example. I listen to a lot of rap. A lot of it is money, power, fame, other topics that we can't say on this podcast. Right. All of it's the same thing, just with a different beat behind it. But whenever you find an artist that stands out not only in their style, but also their experiences they put into the song, it's not about what they want. It's about how they feel. And then you can feel, like, you feel whenever an artist is truly saying what they mean deep down. And then it resonates with the listener more because it means more to the artist that made it.
Yeah. I never listened to rap, mainly because of that. What I would hear, at least on the, you know, like popular things, was just all very shallow to me. And I heard this guy, somebody sent me this guy, and it just blew me away because it turned into like where I saw that rap was an incredible art form and that some people are using it. I just didn't know who they were, you know. And I wish I ever could remember his name. He kind of blew up in the UK for a while, and we worked on some songs together. And I can't even remember his name. It's been 10 years. But anyways, what he sang about or preached about or rapped about, whatever you call it, was things that were just the same things I am. He sang about his daughter and his life and trying to be a good father and overcoming like a lot of things in his life. And he sang about the very details, like the small details of things he's had to overcome in his life. And so there was kind of an uplifting thing to it, but also he didn't leave out true, you know, the reality of life.
What is your opinion on most modern music? Because I know some people, they either love it or some people despise it.
Like
So
on the
many different
radio,
kinds.
or like what is popular?
Yeah, I
maybe.
guess.
You know, to me, like there's always been like these two kind of camps. There's, well, like somebody will come out with something and then 100 other bands are doing it. So automatically, I don't like that. I like the band that came out with it.
You like the
Yeah,
originality?
and I don't care who it is, if it's rap or country or whatever. I like the ones that kind of created it. But here's an interesting thing: is that sometimes those ones that are mimicking that other art form, like country's a big one, because somebody will do a certain kind of country song, and suddenly everything I hear sounds like this one exact song, and I'm like, what in the world? But a strange thing can happen with art is that eventually somebody will actually find something, a spin-off of that idea, and create something very unique from that, you know? So I almost try not to judge it, and I don't want to be like one of those guys that's talking about, oh, the music today, but I don't really listen to a lot of music nowadays. And partly because that same thing, I don't like to I only put into my mind what I want to come out. So I don't sit and ingest a lot of what's happening, in today's world musically. I listen to things that I choose to listen to, that I want to be in me, you know?
Well, what do you listen to these days?
Oh, I listen to old music.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of Dylan. Like, I still listen to Dylan probably once a week. He has, you know, so many albums. I don't listen to any modern music at all. So
all?
kind of boring at all. I used to be into people like Radiohead, Joseph
Yeah.
Arthur, like stuff from the 90s I liked for a while. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I listen to like Johnny Cash, Emmylou Harris. I like stuff from the 70s.
Yeah. That was a really good era of music.
Joni Mitchell. But that's pretty much it. I'm kind of boring. Like people come up to me all the time and go, oh, you sound like so-and-so. I'm like, I got no idea who that is. I don't say that. I'm like, oh, thanks. But I don't know. I just don't listen to modern music.
A couple minutes ago, you were talking about the mimicking of music in the music industry, but I feel like you can say that about just about anything, because I know on TikTok, right, one person will come up with a trend, and then 100,000 other videos will come out basically doing the exact same format or the same layout, and nobody knows who the original creator was in the end. But I mean, even AI, I mean, we're not really going to get into all that.
Gosh.
But like AI is basically just spitting out something that it saw. But I feel like you could also argue that's like what human is, or like being human is too. You see something and it inspires you to do something else.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it is kind of that, like even in my own life, I may hear an album and just be like, oh, I wish I had something like that. And I might go on a journey of mimicry. And so I guess for me, it's something for musicians to be conscious of. It's okay to mimic. In fact, that's how we learn. I mean, we have to mimic somebody to learn. I mimicked my dad, you know. But to be conscious in my life, like not just today, not the music I'm making, but what is my creative life about? And for me, it's really like creating something to say, I was here. Not I listened to Bob Dylan, you know, but I was here and I found it. And maybe it takes me till I'm 70 years old and I'm finding what that is that expresses uniquely me.
Kind of switching gears a little bit. When you were young, did you always want to be an artist and make music? Or if not, what else did you hope to do?
I always thought of music. I never thought I would be a musician. Like the earliest thing where I was like, oh, I want to do this is my dad had a bookshelf and he would sit and read his books. I mean, I was real young. This memory's very young. I took some of his books and I would go sit in the forest and I couldn't really read them. They're like too dense for me. But what I wanted to do is write one of those. And so my earliest thing is I wanted to write books.
So you wanted to be an author?
An author.
Yeah.
But I think what I really wanted to do was tell stories because it captivated people. I was seeing reading and I was like, oh, wow. So that's probably the first thing. I was also good at art. I would win awards for like fine arts and stuff like that. So I thought probably I would be an artist when I grew up.
So you've always really wanted to create?
I wanted for sure to create.
Yeah.
I wanted to produce something with my hands and make it. That's always been in me for as far back as I can remember.
I asked you earlier at the start of the episode what your
There's a squirrel.
what your favorite song you ever worked on was. But what is your least favorite song that you've ever worked on?
Least. Oh, well, I'm going to make a lot of people. I have a lot of fans from my teenage band years. And what's weird is that, so my kids, they're about y'all's age. They love my old band, but I don't like it anymore. So there's a song on that album called My Way, which is probably my least favorite song I've ever made. People mad if they watch this because they love that song.
Just put a disclaimer before.
Disclaimer.
What is your favorite part of the music making? Like, what is your favorite part of the production?
I love the production part of things. I'm kind of a studio rat. Like it's hard for me to get out of the studio and go play and do the things I need to do. But I think arrangement is probably my favorite thing to do. I love kind of once the song is done and all the pieces are kind of there to start to play with how the song flows. I've just always enjoyed that. I've dabbled with like arranging strings and horns, although I don't read music very well at all. Technology lets us skip that a little bit, but I love doing that, arranging parts. So the arrangement, kind of cutting things up and playing with how it flows, is probably my favorite.
Do you have like a certain process that you do every time when you're in the middle of making a song?
Well, because I write a lot. And if I'm not writing songs, I write poetry. And so I guess the only like process in my life that I've kept is quiet time. Like phone goes away because it just doesn't happen. Like I got my phone right here, but the creativity I need to happen doesn't happen if I have distractions. So I've like strangely, because I'm not the most disciplined person, put parts in my day, places where I can just be quiet and allow creativity to happen. So my songwriting time is just no distraction time. I get away from people and from the family and kind of hide out in the woods or wherever I have to go with a guitar to write.
I feel like that's a very good thing to have as in an everyday situation, just some time that you can just go and sit and think by yourself.
It's harder and harder to protect that time.
Yeah.
There's people that write songs in the industry, back to mimicking, that have like formulas to write songs. But that's not the kind of songs I want to write. And I might have formulas in my songs, but the songs I want are in here somewhere.
Yeah.
And if I don't ever get quiet, I can't listen and find them, So I think it's a big deal. And it's harder to do it nowadays than ever because of TikTok and YouTube and everything. Of course, everybody knows that.
Yeah, I notice oftentimes whenever I'm like driving, I'll come up with an idea and I'll be like, oh, that's a really neat idea. And a lot of people have shower thoughts. You know, that's kind of like where they get a lot of their inspiration or their questions. So I don't know. I feel like that's also interesting, like dedicating a time of day or a day of the week or something along those lines to where you can literally just focus on coming up with ideas.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's like if I can't, it's because sometimes it just doesn't come, but I'll try to walk away with something like a chord idea or lyric idea or just journal and kind of, whatever that time is kind of open. It's like, hey, it's open. My daughter learned to write songs when she was like 11 and she's 18 now, so she's been writing for a while and she's really good. But one thing I remember, because she was trying to learn songwriting, but I didn't know how to teach it because I didn't know how I did it. But one thing we found is that, like you mentioned with the shower and driving, is that it's weird. It's almost like a process that works. Is that so you get an idea, work it really hard, like just really push yourself to go as far as you can with it. And then completely put it down. Go take a shower, take a drive, go to sleep. And it's so strange because it's almost like it goes to work inside of you. And suddenly you'll be driving down the road and you'll go, oh, this is the next part to that.
So you have like an aha moment.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or you wake up. So many times I've like struggled to try to get a song to work and then go to bed and I wake up and the first thing I do is like, that's how I fix that problem in the song.
It can be frustrating sometimes too, because I'll come up with that idea. I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. And then by the time I get home, I forget what that idea is. I'm like, and it's really frustrating because I wish I could remember what it was.
When I was first songwriting, I had it, and I would tell everybody this because I didn't write anything down and I didn't record songs because I had this feeling like if I couldn't remember it, it wasn't good enough. And so I'll remember the good songs. Complete opposite now. I write everything down. If I have an idea, it's like instantly. If I had an idea right here on our break, I would have like written it down because I just can't. They just go away. But I've had two opposite stances on that one when I was younger.
I've gotten to taking like a little journal with me everywhere I go in my bag, just in case I have a thought that I want to keep.
Yeah, there's a beautiful thing to do is to build what I call like a junkyard or a scrap yard. And so you're actually doing it when you write it down or when you sing it into a recorder. You've like imprinted it somewhere. But as you move forward and you don't know what to do, is you just go to your scrapyard. Like I have a journal with just all kinds of ideas, and just pull one of those ideas from a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, and work on it.
What has been, would you say, your most memorable experience in your music career?
I've had some like big experiences. I've got published overseas. I got a Japan publishing deal, and I've gotten to play for big crowds. You said what, the most interesting or the most memorable?
The most memorable.
Those aren't the most memorable. The most memorable were really intimate concerts with I started doing house concerts about 8 years ago, 9 years, and I've had just some of the most beautiful times with just 30 people in the room or 20, and just moments that are just will live with me forever. Beyond, and I hadn't done anything like that my whole life. I'd always played at clubs and bars and theaters. I found out I'm missing something, which is this real intimate connection. One of the most beautiful ones it was a house concert in Kansas that I go do. I can't explain what happened, just something really beautiful happened that night. I played for like 3 hours, and then they were asking me to play longer. And it was maybe 20, maybe 30 people in a small room, and it was just beautiful.
So you're really just looking for that certain atmosphere of it.
I kind of hunt for that now. Like I'm not looking for the big shows. I'm looking for how can we make this intimate so this thing happens between us? Because on bigger stages it happened in me, but it didn't happen in the audience the same way. But something happened with the whole room. That's what I look for.
I feel like that's kind of how a lot of artists are. They'll find their niche group, and then suddenly they'll blow up, and then they're selling out concerts that seat like 30,000 people.
Right.
And I know some streamers like that stream online. They're glad that they only have like 1,000 or 2,000 people that'll watch them, because they're scared that if they get like 30,000 or 50,000 viewers, then they won't be able to really connect with the people that enjoy their content.
Yeah, there's a whole like I've had many conversations about that, because I love my fans. I love what happens at some of these shows, and that would be lost if too many people came in at once.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing to think of, but I kind of like foster that in my life, though. Like I'm not like trying to, blow up and, get on a big stage. I want to bring the right people that like enjoy my music and have like this thing together. Even online, I try to kind of keep it small. I've got a list, and I write and send people things because of that. Exactly that, because I've seen so many artists just get lost in it all, and that beautiful thing they had is still there, but it's kind of like watered down at some point.
Yeah.
And they can't help it. It's just
less connection with
not,
all the people.
Yeah, it's just, they're too far from their audience.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best lyric that you've ever wrote?
Well, the best one I wrote is not released anywhere. I wrote a whole song out of just Beatles song titles.
Oh, yeah?
And somebody challenged me to do this, and I had to make it make sense, but it could only be a title from a Beatles song.
That's it?
That's it. And I had to write I wrote like a 4-minute song. And it was like the funnest thing I did. But the one we pulled up right at the beginning is my favorite lyric I've ever written. It's "If I Could Keep You Like a Pressed Flower" is the main lyric in the song. And I got that from, Mimicking. I saw a piece of art in a gallery, and it was called "If I Could Keep You Like a Pressed Flower." And I went home and wrote a song. And so that's one of the most beautiful things. The song is just about, if someone in your life, being able to put them like in a book and keep them forever.
Yeah.
And so that song is probably my favorite lyric too.
Would you say that's the one that's stuck with you the most throughout the years?
That song?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not one I play or even anybody knows about. It's strangely just a very special song to me. It took me actually years to write it, which is also strange. Like most songs I write in a day or two. This one took 2 or 3 years to write, and it was a real struggle. And it's real small and short song, and it's just very special. It just brings me back to, I think, what matters in life is other people in your life.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because I released my first album in October, and a song that I made I didn't even make it intentionally for the album. I made it for a class, for like an assignment for a class. I made it, I recorded it, I shot the music video for it, all of it in one day, and that's like one of my most viewed videos. And then a song that I spent like weeks on, like writing and making sure that everything was like perfect, and it didn't really get a lot of traction.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you, man. Like if you go on my Spotify, the first song you'll see is called "Take Me With You." which was like a throwaway song. Like I just wrote it, like I didn't even remember writing it. And it got on a TV show and it's just constant people listening to it. It kind of makes me like, hey, stop listening to that one. Come over here and listen to these songs. But it's almost like that song has an audience of its own.
What would you say is your least favorite experience that you've had, like on stage?
Oh my gosh, I've had some bad ones. Some I probably can't mention on the podcast. But when I was probably like 20, in my teens, I was a big guy. And I was always real self-conscious about that because all the bandmates were all like shirtless and like rock and roll. And one time we played in Denton and they gave me a stool to sit on. And I was playing and I was rocking and the stool broke. And I fell in a very unbeautiful way. It's just like flap on the floor. And you thought people would go, oh, but the whole audience laughed and it was a whole packed house. So it's like, and I was probably like 19 years old, and man, that was bad. There's nothing worse than a whole audience laughing at you when you just fell on the floor and you're trying to get up, but it's hard because there's like wires on you. But, you know, I'm kind of proud of my little teenage self because I did get up and I finished the show, you know, but it's the worst time I've ever had on stage was that right there.
Couldn't make it work, huh?
No, it's so bad.
So you said you make more like Americana music. What made you want to get into that genre?
My middle music life was more indie rock, and my early life, like I said, was funk. And I think I returned to what was in my roots. Like I kind of, when I was younger, I was like, anything but what I grew up with. And I wanted to get out of that. And then as I got a little bit older, I started like going back to what I loved when I was young. And it was just all Americana stuff. Like it was Gimme Lou Harris and Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan. And so I kind of went back to things later in life, and it just happened to be that this Americana thing was happening.
Did it just come more naturally?
Yeah, it kind of felt just natural for me. And it's strange, like it was happening in the world too, because I started, like even on this album y'all looked at, it started coming out during that album. And then it's just become more and more where I'm okay with like being closer to my roots, you know. I grew up in small towns and wanted to get out. And so I finally was like, no, that's okay. You know, I don't mind being who I am and expressing that. And it happens to be Americana, you know.
That's a pretty big jump from funk to
Yeah, I know.
Americana.
I think it's always kind of been in me. I have like a Texas accent I can't get away from, which I don't notice when I'm in Texas. But when I go out of Texas, everybody's like, talk. Go ahead and talk. And they laugh. So apparently I have a Texas accent. So it's in me, and that's kind of Americana, you know, has that Southern, you know, and pulls from the roots of that.
Yeah.
Even when I'm doing funk, it was a little country, country funk.
Country.
Let's not start that genre. Although that would be unique.
That would be odd.
Yeah.
So completely steering away from music-related topics.
Sure.
What is your favorite hobby?
I have a lot of hobbies. Well, two things. I like chainsaw. Anything with a chainsaw, like cutting up trees.
Oh, just like cutting stuff?
Cutting stuff. Anything will do. I like using a chainsaw and like, what do they got? Falling trees or felling trees. That's fun. Like work. Like I used to did like woodwork and construction, stuff like that's kind of fun. But also like I got into old movies and I collect DVDs. But I collect DVDs of old movies. And it's strangely very fun. And I started it back when I had no money and I wanted to go feel like I spent a bunch of money. Like I went off and had a big night, and DVDs were like 50 cents, so I could come home with like an armful of things and feel like I went on a shopping spree. But it's turned into like searching out like rare old DVDs, even all the way back to silent films and stuff like
really?
that. So it's a crazy hobby. If you came to my house, you go, oh, you've got problems. Like they're everywhere. If you came to my house, I literally have a whole wall that's DVDs, and I've probably watched 50% of them.
Oh.
So
That's
I
a
do,
good chunk.
and I will get to the other ones over time.
Have you found any secret gems in
my
the
gosh.
collection?
Okay, so I found one recently. Y'all know who Charlie Chaplin is? Have you ever seen anything he's done?
I think I have, yeah.
So I always thought he was a little dancing man with the little cane. And I was like, I'm never going to watch that stuff. Well, he made a movie called Limelight. And my daughter just watched it. She's 18. She's kind of my test. Is this crazy, old dude liking this stuff? And she just loved it too. So he made a movie called Limelight by Charlie Chaplin. He wrote the music for it. He wrote the movie, directed it. And it's just a labor of love. When you watch it, it's just like this apple pie, juicy, yummy thing that you don't want to end. It's so good. So that's a big one that I found recently that I'm just like, I've never heard anybody talk about it, but it's just a beautiful movie.
Well, do you have like a favorite movie?
Yeah, I have a movie called I Remember Mama, which is from the 30s, I think. And it's probably my favorite movie next to A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which was also made in the 30s. And those two movies are just so, I love beautiful. I don't have any problem with being sentimental. I love sentiment. And those two movies are very sentimental and they're very good. So they're probably my favorite two movies.
What about directors?
Well, I'm a crazy Kubrick fan. You know who Kubrick? Y'all know Kubrick? Like he made a 2001: A Space Odyssey. He's like, he's considered like one of the greatest directors ever. I think he only made 8 or 9 movies his whole life, and he would just be meticulously crazy, on them. There's all these stories about him. I love Kubrick movies, and I don't really know why, because they're not like a sit down enjoy movie, but I'm kind of obsessed with his life because he was just he was crazy. He was like so meticulous. He would spend years making a movie and like obsess over the cloth used. He did one movie where he only used candlelight for the lighting on people so that it would look like it was really from that period. It's called Barry Lyndon. Also like Scorsese, kind of the greats from my era. Scorsese. I like the dude. He made the Batman movies.
Christopher Nolan?
I'm always excited to see a Nolan movie. Yeah. I feel like he's the big interesting thing going on right now.
Yeah.
My personal favorite
What's yours?
Probably be Wes Anderson.
Oh, yeah, I forgot him. He's great, yeah. Another person that he's delved into his own heart and created something unique. And I don't think he was trying, except that he just was okay with obsessing on the things that he thought were beautiful.
Yeah. If you see his first feature-length film that he made, it was shot like a regular movie. Like all the shots were just normal. Like he followed all the basic rules. And then throughout his second and third film, you see the creative side where he was like, okay, what if I move the camera over here instead? What if I change the lighting? And now it's completely changed into his own personal style.
And I think that's being okay with, like there's a story from Kubrick when he was real young when he came into movies, and there's all these old guys like, that's not where you put the camera, and you put this lens on it. And he had ideas that he wanted to try, and he trusted them. Now that can be dangerous, but you can also, it's really the only way I think to create something that is purely unique is to trust. Like Wes Anderson at some point probably faced a lot of people telling him, you can't do that. You can't just leave a camera pointing on the same scene for that long. He had to trust his instinct and go, I know what I see and I'm going to try it, at least try it.
Yeah. There's a point where I guess you do have to go against the grain to make something really special.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dance because you have to have other people to help. And so you have to find that line of where I'm not going to compromise here, but here I will. I think that's how you work with musicians. It's kind of like, I will compromise in these areas, but right here I got to keep this pure,
Rian Johnson, that's his name.
What is he directing?
He directed one of my favorite movies, which is now kind of has a spin-off to it. It's called Knives Out. It's this very murder mystery, like whodunit kind of.
Yeah.
It was very meticulous and very detail.
Oh yeah, I love the movie. Do you know he did something like we were talking about earlier, where he actually mimics an old style of movie making, but he took it and made something fresh and new out of it.
Yeah.
So it's a way of doing something unique with something that's been done.
Yeah.
And so, I really enjoy him.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite movies. And I don't know, there's just something about it. It's just so cinematic. It's wonderful.
It's what movies, like when I saw that, because it kind of came out as real different than anything. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is what movies are supposed to feel like. They kind of take you on an adventure.
Well, would you like to play a game?
Oh, here we go.
Of course. Let's do it.
All right. Steven's going to be upset he missed this episode. So I don't know if this game has a name or not, but it's called the Rhyme Game. Jackson knows it. So basically, we're given a word, and Jackson, you can choose the word if you want. So like, let's say the word is box, right? I'll say, I'm packing, so I need a... And then the next person would say box. And then they would go, and then they'll say another word that rhymes with box, fox. You can't say the word, right?
Oh, they can't say the word out loud that they're
You have to say a sentence?
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Oh, wow.
So the other person would guess the word, like they fill in the blank with the rhyme. Let's say, we'll do this as an example. I'm packing, so I need a...
box.
And now you will start a sentence, and then I will finish it with the next rhyme.
That there is a very orange...
fox. And then you just go back and forth. Okay, what's the word? Time is the word.
Time.
Do you want me to start? Okay, we'll go clockwise. 3:11 is the current
time. I have a tub of very sticky...
Slime. When I was young, I fell on the concrete and hurt my.
Am I dumb?
Yeah.
What is it? Hold on.
When I was young, I fell on the concrete and hurt my.
Spine.
Yes.
Batman fights a lot of.
Crime. I drew a very straight
Line.
Yeah.
The artist Prince changed his name to a.
What? I don't listen to Prince.
Wait, say that
I'm
again.
sorry, I went back in the old times.
Say that one more time.
The artist Prince changed his name to a. Should I do a different one? Because I went to an era that you're not in. When I was on the way over here, I almost ran a
Stoplight?
stop.
Sign.
I think it's the way I'm saying it. I'm making it difficult.
A synonym for collection could be.
Synonym for collection.
Yeah. Another word for collection.
Is it a big word?
No. It's one syllable.
One syllable. Okay.
It starts with an S.
I don't know.
This one. Is it like a common word?
I guess. You don't hear it in it.
A shrine.
Yes. It's a shrine.
I got it.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
It belongs to me, so it is.
Mine.
Yeah.
They say I'm angry, but I'm feeling.
Fine. 10 cents is known as a.
Dime. The song sent me into the.
The song sent me into the mind. Pantomime? What happens
right.
when you can't?
I think I'm.
The song sent me into the rhyme.
No.
I'm not even
no.
playing. It's not my turn.
No, you don't get to know it.
Opine. The song sent me.
You want me to
Can
say
there
it?
be use it in a sentence or something? Another sentence?
Do you want the definition?
Yeah.
The definition is, in its adjective form, of such excellence, grandeur, or beauty as to inspire great admiration or awe.
You're making this up.
I'm not. I promise I'm
The
not.
song sends me into the. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to throw in the.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Sublime.
Sublime.
Oh, okay.
See?
Oh.
See?
That's a good word.
Well, before we leave here, do you have any questions for us?
No,
got
I had a
very
good
off
time. I don't really have questions. I enjoyed this a lot. I like what you are doing. I'm glad you are doing this. And can't wait to watch it and check out some of the other shows. I guess, do y'all find this a creative act? I'll leave it with that. Creating this podcast?
Yeah.
I think
I would
so.
say it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to do something different.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know a lot
First
of
one.
schools that have podcasts.
I've never heard of one.
I know some schools might do like some small thing where they like talk about the events, but they don't have a full-on production going on. You know,
Is there any future plans, or is just kind of figuring it out as you go? Any big plans?
Well, he created this. I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, you're a good, I don't know, co-host or
Yeah,
whatever.
co-host.
Yeah, you're good together. You're gonna keep it going though through the summer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next year.
I'm gonna be
maybe?
a senior next year, so we're gonna have to find somebody to replace me. She's gonna become the host, and then
That'll be great.
we need somebody to fill in for her.
Well, you created something real neat. If you can step out and it can keep going.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's the goal here.
That's really neat.
That's what we're shooting for.
One more thing, where can people find you?
You can go to my website. Is probably the easiest way. It's just Ezra Ezra Vancil. Think of Van Halen, but it's vancil.com. You can search for me on your Spotify, Apple, or any of those things, YouTube, and you'll find music to stream. But my website has like a sign up thing. You can sign up for my mailing list, and you'll get to find out when I'm having shows and release new stuff. So EzraVancil.com.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time on Coffee Talk.
Bye.
Cheers.